Colombia has 16 commercial agreements which covers around 1,500 million consumers with coverage of 62 countries. Of those 16 agreements, 11 are with Latin America and the Caribbean, and this is why this area is so important in commercial terms. Colombia signed a commercial agreement with Mercosur in 2004, also known as the Can-Mercosur Agreement, and it was formally named ACE 59. It was signed in 2004 and implemented on February 2005. This agreement is made up by 7 countries, by the Can side, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru, and on the other hand, the 4 founding countries of Mercosur, Paraguay, Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay. Over the years, this agreement has had several inconveniences due to the situation with Venezuela, because this country did not reach consensus in the decisions, was reluctant to cooperate, and vetoed decisions in which the other parties had already reached an agreement. Therefore, in 2016, Colombia agreed with the Mercosur countries to make a new agreement based on what was negotiated in 2004. This new agreement is the ACE 72. Today, Colombia has 2 agreements, the ACE 59 and the ACE 72, that incorporates everything from the previous agreement plus some additional considerations. In this new version, the arrangement is made up by Colombia and the Mercosur countries. These treaties included the partial agreements that Colombia had with Argentina, Brazil, and the other countries, consolidating them and not only having some tariff lines, but including the entire tariff universe. But what happened with the Colombian relationships with Ecuador and Venezuela? They are not affected, since the 2 countries have their own relations with those of Mercosur. Colombia makes its own arrangements with Ecuador in the Can and with Venezuela in Italy with Can, but when withdrawing from it, they related by means of a partial scope agreement within the framework of ALADI, which is agreement number 28, meaning that this migration does not affect relationships with Ecuador and Venezuela. Parameters established by both parties. According to the new ACE 72 agreement, it has the same legal framework of the ACE 59 agreement, which corresponds to that of the Latin American Integration Association and the Montevideo Treaty of 1980. It's also maintained. The main purpose is to create an area of free trade, and everything agreed in 2004 remains the same. In 2004, a tariff reduction schedule was agreed. The longest being 15 years for sensitive products, and the normal products can be released immediately. They are countries with less relative economic development, such as Ecuador and Paraguay. They have a greater preferential treatment, so all the countries relate them faster. Also, in the new agreement, the items that were vetoed by Venezuela agreements were made regarding textiles, garments, and metalworking, laminated products mainly from Brazil. In terms of legalization of the agreement, previously the concession was made by 7 countries and now only the 5 countries, so it's much easier to reach an agreement. In addition, in the protocolization process, which means the process of the signature of the act before the ALADI, the 7 countries no longer have to sign it, but only the parties involved in the agreement. This was one of the biggest difficulties with Venezuela, since it signed the act but then did not show up to the protocol. In this, ACE 72, which was agreed with regard to the accumulation of origin, which is a figure that allows exporters to bring inputs from several countries that are in the agreement and export them in such a way that they qualify as if they were from the country and that the good is produced, thus fulfilling the origin requirement. Also included was a mechanism of limited supply, which for certain inputs, some types of special germs, for example, that come from Asia and are not in the region, if it is possible to demonstrate that they are not achieved in the country of the agreement, it can give the approval for the manufactured products to be sent with a foreign input as if they were originally from the country. One of the most important changes to this agreement was the integration of a service agreement to the offer service exporters legal stability and equal conditions in the commercial treaty. This agreement was closed in 2015 and was finally signed this year in July and will be incorporated into the agreement of goods. It has not entered into force even though it must be approved by the Congress of the Republic, but it is already developed and agreed by the parties. The complementation is fundamental for the countries in question. Zoom in exports and imports. Since 2004, trade began to increase. Exports that were minimal in 2013 reached its highest point, and imports have also increased. Many raw materials are imported from Mercosur, not just finished products. The year in which most was imported from Mercosur was in 2012, with $5,000 million, demonstrating as boosting of the trade since the beginning of this agreement. Colombia's trade balance has always been in deficit with Mercosur. In 2007, there were a small surplus with Paraguay, a country which trade is between $15 and $20 million, which is very little compared to the total trade of Colombia with Mercosur. 75% of trade with Mercosur is with Brazil. Brazil is the fifth partner for Colombia exports worldwide. Despite the fact that the trade balance with Mercosur has been mostly deficit, in recent years it has tended to be level off slightly due to a higher growth in exports than imports. Products of greater import and export by both countries. Colombia exports mostly mining energy products. Mercosur has a very industrialized, diversified balance, therefore, they export as automobiles, iron manufacturers, finished products, and also raw materials. The vehicles that are the most important product, and we are going to start exporting vehicles to Mercosur thanks to an agreement that was made last year. We export them coal and oil derivatives as plastics. Trade restrictions are products not covered by the free trade agreement. Some of the aspects that remain are related to sensitive goods, such as the automobile sector, which is considered of its nature by the 5 countries. Therefore, it is restricted and with partial preferences of 54 and 55%. That is to say that the cars arriving to Colombia from Brazil outside the framework of a new agreement must comply with a rule of origin requiring local content of the car of around 50% depending on the model and the type of vehicle, which in the case of Argentina or Brazil is complained, since they have an industry that produces vehicles, while in Colombia it is more dedicated to assembling them. According to this, Colombia could not export vehicles to these countries for not complying the rule of origin. However, afterwards, a 35% of origin requirement for Colombia was agreed with Brazil and 50% for them. Given the difference in the industry, this was one of the most difficult points in the negotiation, which will be accepted to reduce it to 35% of origin content. With this new requirement, now Colombia can meet to export vehicles to Brazil with a 0% tariff rate, and Brazil is on par with Mexico, with whom Colombia has free trade in vehicles for several years, and who is its bigger competition in Latin America for the automobile sector. With Argentina, a similar agreement was reached in the origin requirements that allow Colombia to export its vehicles to this country. Since this year, 6,000 vehicles have already been exported between May and June. Positive and negative effects for the economy after the treaty. This agreement has had many benefits for Colombia. One of the biggest is the increase of the exportation companies. For example, Colombia's exportation of non-mining energy goods to Mercosur had increased 6.8% between 2010 and 2016. We passed to export 722 million in 2010 to 771 million in 2016. This arrangement then definitely helped invigorate the market of the countries. One of the main difficulties of the agreement has been the situation of Venezuela and the evident opposition of this country to reach agreements between all parties. With the ACE 59 arrangement, many negotiations could not be carried out because Venezuela opposed or delayed the negotiations. Other complications have come from logistical challenges. For example, to try to reach a country from the south is very difficult because it can take a month for the ships to arrive. For example, to Brazil and Argentina, and Paraguay has not strips to the sea. Future projections of the arrangement. In the future, the creation of a dispute settlement regime will be organized, which is already agreed up, but it must go through a formality process to enter into force. In addition, the nomenclature must be updated, since the initial agreement, ACE 59, was made with the Naladisa nomenclature of 1996, and in the case of the ACE 72, the agreement migrated in the same way, since it is very expensive and very complicated to look at the correlations of the nomenclature from 1996 to the year 2017, which is the current one. However, this work is pending and should be carried out in the future. Colombia also proposed some developments that failed to be analyzed and negotiated with the framework of its agreement given the speed of the migration, which took place in less than 6 months, but if they were stipulated as dependent to be considered later, these aspects are related with the facilitation of trade, investment, and public purchases. In the near future, Paraguay is expected to internalize the new agreement. Internalizing is a process in which a country takes authority and makes it internally legal. Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay have already done so. It is also expected that the Congress of the Republic of Colombia will approve the service agreement this year.